It's time for the Splatoon review for the Wii U. I remember watching the trailer for this game during E3 and being very impressed. It was nice that Nintendo came up with a new IP, and I was pretty eager to try it out. Then when it did, my brother actually bought the game, and after watching him play it, I honestly wasn't that interested. I finally did start playing it many months after the game was launched, and I gotta say, it was... well, let's just find out in the review. When you first start, the game actually prompts you to begin with online multiplayer, which both my siblings and I agree, it's a little odd. Why would you start right off the bat with multiplayer if you've never played before? We decided to play single player mode instead. Single player mode kinda reminds me of Super Mario Galaxy. It's a third-person platforming shooter. In this mode, you need to get from point A to point B, tackling obstacles and putting down enemies along the way with your... ink. That's right, you're a humanoid-looking creature called an inkling, with your other form being a squid. You can switch between the two anytime you like, but each one is used for a different purpose. In inkling form, you can shoot ink with your super soaker-like weapon and cover much area in ink, as well as defeating enemies with it. Your squid form lets you swim through inked areas much faster than if you were to run through them. You can also swim up walls that are inked to reach new areas in higher ground, and you can jump greater distances while in squid form. In addition to your super soaker, you have a secondary weapon, usually in the form of bombs. You can acquire different weapons as you play through, but only when you advance in online multiplayer. Speaking of which, online multiplayer can be really fun, but sometimes it can't. What I mean is, in my very first online match, I was paired up and faced off against players very near my skill level. We were all noobs and it was just fine. My second game though, and every other game since, there seemed to be no justification to the team scramble. I was paired up with much higher level players, and the enemy team was just the same. Why did it set up teams this way? Was I really the only player at such a low level in the entire server the game had no choice but to put me in with way higher skilled players? Well, perhaps the game thought I was so good, my current level didn't accurately portray my true skills. Or not. It's not a huge issue, because quite honestly, the difficulty of many of the matches that were set up like this wasn't overwhelming. I actually did pretty well, if I do say so myself. The problem I had, though, was that most, if not every other player had access to more weapons and equipment, which gave them greater passive skills. So at least for the beginning, I don't believe the game does a good job of matchmaking. My brother is much more skilled than me, and he gets matched up with players near his skill level. So as you progress and level up, my assumption is that you will be paired up and face against players near your level. Now this is just the case for Turf Wars. It's an unranked online battle mode where the objective is to cover as much area as you can in your team's ink color and prevent the other team from doing just that. At the end of the match, the team with the more ink coverage, of course, wins. Even if you're on the losing end, you'll still gain some experience, not as much as if you were to win, but a little which will fill up your level gauge, as well as any equipment that still hasn't unlocked all of its passive abilities. So even if you're stuck in a 5-game losing streak, you'll still gain a little XP, which is a very nice consolation prize, because increasing your level isn't just for bragging rights. When you level up, you're given access to new equipment, some with multiple passive abilities. The city you're in when you're not playing in matches is a central hub for everything you need. Thing is though, every vendor is a snob and won't let you purchase new weapons or equipment until you're at least level 4 in online mode, which doesn't really take that long, but what's with the attitude? Once you're finally able to receive decent customer service, you can test out any weapon or equipment before you purchase it, which is really nice. There are many kinds of weapons, all of which force you to play differently from the last one. The equipment you can buy, such as headgear, shirts, and footwear, all have different attributes that can help you out in certain situations, so it's up to you on how you want to customize your skills and your style. Looking fresh! Customization and experimenting with gear and weapons is important in Turf Wars, but I find it borderline necessary in ranked battles. Here you will play various game modes, which include Splat Zones, which is basically King of the Hill, Rainmaker, which is similar to Capture the Flag, and Tower Control, where you have to take control of a tower and ride it over to your opponent's base. I think my favorite is Splat Zones, but the other two are just about as fun. All three, in my opinion, are more fun than Turf Wars. I feel there's more strategy involved, and working with your teammates with extremely limited communication is more crucial than it is in Turf Wars. When you win a match in any ranked battle, you'll receive XP towards your level and gear like in Turf Wars, but you'll also gain XP towards your online rank. You start at C- rank, and working your way up to rank S will take hours and hours of wins. Like I just mentioned, the amount of communication you can use to talk with your teammates is virtually non-existent. You can press down on the D-pad to say, "Booyah!" or pressing up on the D-pad will let you say, "Come on!" That's it. You get to choose between a taunt or a command/complaint, whichever situation you're in. This is a serious flaw in the game, and can severely ruin whatever kind of strategy you're trying to pull off. I know Nintendo wants to stay family friendly, and you could just use Skype or Discord, but if any game of theirs calls for heavy communication, this would probably be number 1. If the game won't have voice communication, then at least give us more than 2 text options. And yes, I know the sequel addresses the situation and will supposedly make it better, but this isn't Splatoon 2. The graphics look really good. Love the color and vibrancy when you're in the heat of battle. It's not a heavily detailed game, but it doesn't need to be. The cartoon look fits nicely with the overall theme. The controls can take a bit to get used to, namely with the camera. You can move the camera with the left analog stick, but also by physically turning the gamepad left or right. Doing both at the same time can quickly speed up the change of the camera angle, and is great for when you need to do a fast 180. When you're playing online, you can tap on one of your teammates' locations on the gamepad to quickly launch yourself to that spot, instead of running or swimming to that spot. Be careful, however, because any nearby enemies can see you're about to land on your selected location and be ready for an ambush. There is local multiplayer, but it's very boring and not worth going back to play. The objective is to shoot more balloons than your opponent in a given amount of time. Perhaps it would be more fun if it was more than just 1v1, but as it stands, it's just not that fun. Overall though, Splatoon is quite a fun game. Single player mode can be enjoyed in its own right, but the real excitement comes from online multiplayer. The lack of communication in both online modes can harshly cripple your chances of winning a match, and local multiplayer isn't worth your time. However, with sharp controls, catchy tunes, and the cornucopia of gear and weapons eventually at your disposal, the combinations of playstyle are virtually endless, which makes matches seem fresh and will have you coming back to splat your enemies again and again. This game gets a 4 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
Didn't we already do this before?
Well, yeah, but I got 2 balloons now.
Fine, just don't take as long this time. That hurt. That really hurt, dude. Ow.
Get closer.
Just close your eyes so you don't know when.
Go! Oh!
It's on your nose. Oh shoot!
These are crap. Catch it.
We're done. My phone is in my pocket. Okay.